Okay. So, thank you all for joining us. Buenas tardes. We're gonna begin today. Good, sorry. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. Buenas tardes. Gracias por estar con nosotros hoy. Vamos a abrir hoy con public comment o el comentario público. So we're gonna begin with public comment. There are several people today that are gonna be sharing. So we please ask you that you keep it under 3 minutes. If the 3-minute mark is reached, you will hear an alarm. We just want to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to speak equally. Vamos a dejar que todos compartan lo que tienen que compartir. Nada más les pedimos que por favor mantengan el límite de 3 minutos. La alarma va a estar para los 3 minutos. Cuando escuchen, ya sigue la siguiente persona. Hay algunos que tienen comentarios en inglés y en español. Tal vez no haya suficiente tiempo para que hagan el mismo comentario en los 2 idiomas. Así que está en usted, si usted quiere compartir en español o en inglés, va a ser su decisión. So if you have a comment that's both in English and Spanish, you may not have enough time to share it in both languages. So we ask that you select the one that you want to share first, so you have enough time to deliver it. Okay, so we'll begin with Stephanie Partlow.
My name is Stephanie Partlow, and this is my 10th year as a teacher, and I'm so proud that all 10 of those years have been here in Woodburn at the high school, working with our incredible students. When I first came to Woodburn, I was blown away by the determination and compassion I saw in my students as they persevered through an incredible number of challenges and still found time for school and for work. I was proud that our schools provided so many students a safe and stable place in their lives where they could just be kids and focus on their present and on their future. Unfortunately, I no longer see the same stability in my school, despite all of us working harder than ever. Our high teacher turnover rate and large class sizes are drastically and negatively impacting our students. In October, a senior who I had only just met asked me for a letter of recommendation. I suggested that she ask one of her junior year teachers who'd known her longer, and she said, I can't. All of my teachers from last year are gone. At parent-teacher conferences, I listened to my students explain to the parents why they had 3 different teachers for their Latinx studies classes this year. And now this class had to be changed to geography because we couldn't find another teacher qualified to teach the class that they wanted to take. A few months ago, I watched as a coworker, one of our own alumni who became a teacher and returned to invest in Woodburn, left our school because the workload was unsustainable. Last semester, my pre-calculus class sizes were so large, 35 students and many of them. I could not support the students who needed my help the most. I tried. I stayed after school every day, but my students ran out of desks and they had to sit on the floor of my classroom with clipboards to do their work. It became survival of the fittest, and many of my students dropped at the semester because there were so many of them, over 200 on my caseload, and only one of me. These were students who worked hard through their previous years to get to this class and lost out on a college credit opportunity. Our high teacher turnover means students are losing the mentors who push them to reach for dreams they never thought they could achieve. Our large class sizes mean that our students are not receiving the individual support and encouragement that they need to grow. Losing teachers means losing quality programs that take years to develop, and new opportunities never get off the ground. This turns my school into an unstable place where every time a student turns around, another educator is gone and they have to decide whether or not to trust yet another person. Our students are starting to ask, why bother? They're just going to leave too. The current offer from the district is similar in regards to workload and COLA to our contract from 2019. But the post-pandemic working conditions and inflation rates we are experiencing are not similar to 2019. We're hemorrhaging teachers who dedicated their careers to Woodburn and who care deeply about our students. The quality of our students' education is suffering. We're drowning under the number of students who we passionately want to serve. Our students deserve better than this. They deserve the very best, and something has to change. Woodburn has always been a leader in education, whether bilingual education or graduation rates. I'm asking you to consider what it would take to be a leader in teacher retention for the purpose of providing a consistent and excellent education for our students. Thank you.
Up next, Michelle Avila.
Honored board members and esteemed colleagues and community members. My name is Michelle Avila. I'm a teacher in the Woodburn School District. And I've been employed by WSD for 25 years. I love my job. I love the people I work with, the children I teach, and the community I live in and serve. I want to continue working in Woodburn until I retire. 2 years ago in January, I lost my husband, Ralph, to COVID. My journey since then has not been easy. I didn't just lose my Ralph, my best friend. I lost his income. Suddenly, I went from paying all the bills with 2 paychecks to paying the same bills with just 1. After canceling every subscription and cable, selling my husband's car, all of his construction equipment, refinancing my home to pay off my student debt, so I no longer had to make those payments. And I paid off our credit cards. I was just able to be solvent at the end of the month. With inflation, that's no longer true. Now, 2 weeks after I get paid, all my bills are paid, but there's little left for gas or groceries and nothing left for extras. I don't go out to dinner, rarely to lunch. I haven't been to a movie, a concert in 2 years. I get my hair done once a year before school starts. By the 3rd week after my paycheck, I struggle to buy groceries for my family. I have 4 grandchildren that live with me, and a son who has mental health issues that lives with me. I no longer have any savings, and at 60 years old, instead of looking towards retirement, I'm looking for another job in another district that will respect me. I need a decent cost of living increase. Well, I believe that our administrators deserved a cost of living increase. I feel the 9 to 15% cost of living increase that they got was an insult to the teachers of our district. If you were to ask the parents of this district who voted you into your positions, who they felt needed more money, they wouldn't say administrators, they would say the teachers who work with their children. That's just one of several reasons the WEA has decided to strike on April 24th, 2023. For me, it's the biggest reason. I deserve to be able to feed my family. I deserve to be able to fix my hair more than once a year. And I'm asking you, the school board members, to instruct your employees, the administrators of Woodburn, to give us a decent cost of living like you guys gave them.
Up next, Simi Wage.
I'm so proud to be here. I'm so incredibly proud to be here. I just need to say that. And I'll probably cry because this is a very big deal to me. So I can't speak for everyone. I can only speak for myself as a middle school science teacher. My battle begins at 6:45. I throw things down, grab things up, and run to the copy machines, taking what I can to make the most of the time that I have. Back in my room, I try to prep for the variety of learners that come through my door. I have students needing language support, students who can't read beyond a kindergarten level. I have students in algebra and others who find sequencing difficult. No one is average. Everyone has their own needs. At 8:15, the bells ring and my students are on the go. The day speeds by, teaching, monitoring, intervening, assessing, anything I can do to help the classroom function. Another day punctuated by jamming lockers and hallway battles. I watched for gang signs and bullying. I watched for smiles and sorrow, all the while trying to be the friendly face that students see when they come down the hall. 2 fights today alone. It's hard to look friendly while playing security guard. Lunch arrives around 1, but the teaching doesn't end. Like my colleagues, I write passes for those who need to come in and receive extra help during lunch. Once my 7th period kids leave, I have 50 minutes to plan for the day and evaluate student work. Since I am only guaranteed 290 minutes of planning per week, 2 assignments for 184 kids devours every minute. So rather than wasting my time with grading, I know I can take home, I prepared the next day's lesson. After school is filled with unofficial meetings as teacher check-in regarding issues around behavior and academics, emails, parent calls, and meeting also soak up precious minutes. I prep my room, labs, slide presentation, makeup work, and notes. Much needs to be done for the next morning. For myself and so many others, time is short and the list is long. By 5, I force myself to wrap things up, as I know dinner is waiting to be prepared at home. So I load up my book bag with the papers that still need to be graded. I don't know how this became normal. I used to have time to breathe. I used to leave at 4:30. I used to spend time with my family after school instead of madly grading papers while stirring dinner on the stove. I used to stay home on Saturdays instead of coming into school. And now I do this. But I come back every day because I believe that my students deserve the best education that I can possibly give. I come back every day because I love my kids and I want to see them succeed. They matter to me, they matter to us, and that's why we all come back.
Up next, Andrea Fox.
My name is Andrea Fox. I've been a high school teacher and high school soccer coach in Woodburn for 7 years. Since my first day working in Woodburn, I felt welcomed as if I was family. I was immediately impressed by the hardworking students, small class sizes, and the importance my colleagues placed on building genuine relationships with our students. I learned quickly the best way to motivate and inspire my students was to care about who they truly are as people. It became part of my daily practice for students to write in their journals about their hopes, dreams, histories, challenges, and mental health. This was a way for me to individualize the education of my students while assessing their writing levels. It also allowed me to identify who needed extra support through mental health services or connections with our college and career counselor. As a class, we were able to celebrate each other's stories and accomplishments. At that time, I checked these journals weekly, and my average daily class load was 90 to 100 students. Today, I teach 185 students. I can't do this anymore. My students are exclusively ESOL students, and while I can now only check their journals once per month, their need for writing and mental health support is greater. I have many students who cannot read or write. Because of the increased class load, I am no longer able to identify their needs in a timely manner and provide them with appropriate feedback. When I came back from maternity leave this September, my daughter was 10 weeks old, and my entire job had changed. I was in a new classroom teaching a new subject, a new grade level, and a new class that had zero curriculum. I felt blindsided and disregarded. My largest class currently has 28 students in it.
6 p.m.
This is unreasonable for an ESOL class. It is especially unreasonable for a class with 9 SPED students and 5 who are working to earn modified diplomas and no educational assistance. Currently, 23% of my students are dual identified to receive ESOL and special education services. This, coupled with larger class sizes, makes it difficult to serve the individual needs of my talented students. We have seen extreme turnover in our SPED department, and because of this, for many days this year, none of my classes have had educational assistance. This high turnover is not just in the SPED department, it's throughout the high school due to unmanageable workload. The number of students in the classroom may seem like just that, a number, but when our numbers get this large, we can no longer properly individualize our classes for our students or ensure that we are supporting the cultural and educational needs of our unique student body. Students are constantly being taught by subs and are unable to build the relationships and trust with their teachers that was once ubiquitous. Passionate educators who invested in Woodburn are leaving to preserve their own mental health and for somewhere they once again feel valued. In order for students to thrive, they need to feel safe and they need to feel seen. The conditions of this year have made that standard exceedingly difficult to achieve. I have cried on my way to and from work on more days than I can count, and I've never done that before this year. Our students deserve teachers who aren't burnt out and overwhelmed and pushed to their absolute limit. It's hard to feel like our work doesn't matter. When teachers are supported, we can better serve who matters the most, our students. Thank you.
Up next, Javier Seca.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Teodoro Sánchez. Vivo más de 25 años aquí en Woodburn. Tengo dos hijos que van a la universidad y uno que va a ir al kinder este próximo septiembre. Aquí traigo unas palabras para ustedes, la mesa. Espero que ustedes valoren el bienestar de aquí de Woodburn y a los alumnos de Woodburn. Y pues no veo ahorita que lo estén haciendo. Tengo unas preguntas para ustedes, la cual es, ¿cuál es su trabajo? ¿Por qué los maestros no han tenido, por qué los maestros han tenido que estar rogando a un superintendente que no conoce nada de nuestra comunidad para un aumento de sueldo? ¿Por qué ustedes no han parado a un superintendente que no ve que quiere lo mejor de nuestra comunidad? Cuando los maestros le están pidiendo que se reduzca la cantidad de niños en los salones, nuestros niños pueden ir a una clase donde el maestro pueda ayudar a cada uno de ellos. ¿Por qué ustedes no están escuchando el grito desesperado de nuestros maestros? ¿Quieren que nuestra comunidad siga trabajando en los campos recogiendo las fresas que el superintendente se come? ¿Realmente han visto cuánto trabajo tienen los maestros que el tiempo de preparación no les alcanza? ¿Por qué seguimos trayendo gente para que trabaje como directores y gane un sueldo muy alto? Y que la voz del superintendente es tan suave que los ha conquistado y ustedes, la mesa, se han dejado manejar por el superintendente. ¿Por qué han permitido que los directores se aumenten $20,000 en este año y a los que realmente hacen el trabajo no les han dado ni siquiera un contrato? ¿Por qué han permitido que más de 60 maestros abandonen nuestro distrito? Pues como les dije, yo apoyo a los maestros como miembro de la comunidad y les vengo a pedir estas peticiones que sean cumplidas para el beneficio de la comunidad y de los maestros. Queremos clases pequeñas garantizadas, tiempo para planificar instrucción, calificar y que tengan tiempo para que se conecten con nuestras familias, salarios justos para todos los maestros. Si no se cumplen estas peticiones, se perderán más maestros porque el 92% de los maestros votaron por una huelga. Yo en particular no quiero que se vayan a huelga porque toda la comunidad será afectada. Ustedes, los miembros de la mesa, están ignorando las necesidades de nuestros maestros y nuestros estudiantes. Yo he llamado a la comunidad a reunirse con los maestros para luchar por mejores condiciones de trabajo y salarios justos para nuestros maestros. Las condiciones de trabajo de los maestros son las condiciones de aprendizaje para nuestros estudiantes. Gracias.
Next is Manuel Chávez.
Muy buenas tardes. Voy a ser breve. Presidente de la Junta Directiva, Eve Moreno, y miembros de la Junta Directiva. Vengo a hablar a favor de los maestros y de los estudiantes de Woodburn. Yo soy un papá de estudiante que asiste en la escuela distrito escolar. Mi hija, Alexa Chávez, va a la escuela preparatoria. Formo parte del comité de padres. Siempre me he involucrado porque me interesa que nuestros estudiantes tengan acceso a la mejor educación posible. Nuestros hijos merecen clases donde haya un número justo de estudiantes por salón. Mi hija asiste a la escuela primaria Washington. A su maestra ha tenido hasta 26 niños en el salón y he visto con mis propios ojos el duro trabajo que tienen. Tienen que hacer para poder llegar a hacer que los niños aprendan. No es posible que la maestra pueda hacer tan buen trabajo como ella quiere, por tener a muchos alumnos. Muchos de nuestros hijos abandonaron las clases avanzadas en el cambio del semestre, porque no están lo suficientemente preparados. ¿Por qué el distrito escolar por años se ha aprovechado de gastar nuestro dinero en cosas no necesarias o en contratar administradores de más, como lo están haciendo ahora? En lugar de pagar sueldos justos a los maestros, deben de contratar maestros para que nuestros hijos estén mejor educados y cuando lleguen a la preparatoria estén preparados para las clases avanzadas y no las abandonen. También necesitamos que hayan suficientes consejeros, psicólogos, enfermeros para que le puedan ayudar, dar un buen cuidado mental a nuestros hijos, para que los estudiantes reciban los servicios y la instrucción que necesitan para mejorar su salud mental y así que la carga de trabajo de los profesionales sea suficiente para que hagan un buen trabajo. Se me rompe el corazón de saber que nuestros maestros y nuestros estudiantes estén estudiando en las condiciones que estamos. Cuando voy a mi junta de comité, no parece que haya problemas de dinero. Hasta nos piden opinión en cómo gastarlo. Muy bien. Eso y nosotros los padres hemos sugerido que contraten a maestros, los padres de familia, y nos dimos cuenta que los estudiantes se dieron su
Okay. Gracias.
gracias.
Right, up next is Courtney Elwell.
Hi, my name is Courtney Owell, and I'm a parent and a community member. And I was here at the last meeting in January when a presentation was made about the school-based health clinic. And I know that this item is on the agenda tonight, and I want to share a couple of things that are concerning to me, as well as other parents and community members. The needs assessment was presented to the board in January, and at that time, more time was given to complete surveys for families, and it appears that the number has gone from 70 to 140 something. And I don't understand why, when the time came to ask families here in Woodburn if they had internet, we took the time to pick up the phone and call each family and ask them if they had internet. But something as serious as health and healthcare, we can't pick up the phone and can't survey each family. Why is that? It seems to me like something as important as health to each student. Why something more important than internet? Why can't we reach out and find out? Sorry. I'm having a hard time saying tonight because of allergies. It seems like we could reach out and find out things like that when we want to know people, and get down to the bones of things. When we want to pigeonhole our answers and find out what is happening from families. When I ask Woodburn families about the school-based health clinic, they are shocked. They don't even know about it. They are flabbergasted. As some of the board may know, I requested all of the data to support the needs assessment. And to my surprise, most of the information was about Marion County. It wasn't even specific to Woodburn students. It wasn't about how many students have been absent from school due to doctor's appointments, mandatory vaccinations. There was no documentation about students missing school due to any health reasons, mental health, physical health, dental appointments, nothing, no data about this at all. So how do we know? At a minimum, I thought there would be some sort of documentation indicating where our home to school contacts had provided transportation to students, for students to appointments or required doctor visits, but there was nothing. No log sheets, no monthly verifications, nothing. It's so difficult for me to understand how there is a request before the school board tonight asking them to approve phase 2 of the school-based health clinic on a needs assessment when our community has more than sufficient dental clinics, mental health services with no waiting list within a walking distance of the Woodburn High School, and pediatrician and medical offices to support the students of our community. The distance from Woodburn High School to Salud Medical Center, Woodburn Pediatrics, or Pacific Pediatrics is 0.9 mile, which I might add is a shorter distance than Dutch Brothers. The issue that concerns me above all is when presenting this information and expressing the plan, you indicated that parents expressed school day access. Sorry. You were emailed the rest of it, so hopefully you'll read that and take it into consideration.
All right, up next, Erika Guevara.
Buenas tardes a todos los que están aquí presentes, desde ustedes hasta los que están aquí atrás, todos los que están ahí afuera que no pueden escuchar lo que vamos a decir. Pero, pues buenas tardes a los miembros. Hoy martes 11 de abril del 2023. Vengo en apoyo total a los niños y jóvenes de la comunidad de Woodburn. Mi entendimiento como padre de familia de lo que está pasando en las escuelas públicas no es nada agradable. La calidad de aprendizaje que están recibiendo, se sabe la razón y no hemos visto ninguna mejora en tener grupos de clases más chicas. Sabemos que hay espacio en todas las escuelas. Eso se sabe de sobra. Hay espacio, porque sí lo hay, ¿verdad? Y soy una madre que está activa en cada escuela de mis hijos. Tengo en la high school, tengo en la middle school y tengo en la elementary school. Soy una mujer, soy una madre de familia que siempre ha estado activa. Desde que mi hijo, desde que él empezó a ir al prekinder, yo he estado activa, yo he aprendido muchísimo con el paso de los tiempos. Y esta no es la primera vez que se van los maestros a huelga. Ya van varias veces. Y esto no se puede estar repitiendo cada 3 años, cada vez que está por vencerse un contrato. El contrato cada vez está peor y los salones cada vez tienen más niños. ¿Y qué significa cuando se tiene más niños? El aprendizaje es mínimo, porque no se les puede estar dando tiempo de calidad a los niños. Y sabemos que aquí en este pueblo somos título 1. Eso quiere decir que sí hay suficientes fondos, pero ¿a dónde se están yendo esos fondos? ¿Quién se los está llevando? ¿Quién se los está llevando? ¿Quién en realidad se está llevando ese dinero en sus bolsas? Vienen unos, entran al distrito, se van con las bolsas llenas y nos quedamos ¿dónde? ¿Porque queremos seguir siendo título 1 para que nos sigan dando dinero? No. Yo por mí que mejor quitaran el título 1, pero que nuestros hijos tuvieran aprendizaje de calidad, entendimiento, ¿verdad? No, ningún trabajo es malo, ningún trabajo es malo, desde el campo hasta donde estén, ningún trabajo es malo, pero que tengan el entendimiento nuestros hijos, ¿por qué? ¿Por qué están ahí? ¿Por qué quieren estar ahí? Yo apoyo de verdad, apoyo totalmente que se les apruebe el contrato que están pidiendo a los maestros, que las clases sean más chicas. No quiero ver maestros estresados. No quiero ver maestros con 130 y tantos niños que cuando ellos tengan que hacer una calificación por cansancio la hagan mal. No quiero seguir viendo eso. De verdad que los apoyo totalmente y de verdad hagan lo que esté en las manos, quiten dinero, quiten personal que está ocupando asientos en el distrito. Quiten ese tipo de personal que no se ocupan, así como les hacen a los maestros de estar mirando cuánto ganan, para qué es el dinero, así háganlo con los otros miembros que están aquí en el distrito, que están ocupando asientos, solamente están sentados, están ganando dinero, pero no están haciendo nada. Cuando quiten esos asientos, van a ver que van a poder contratar más maestros. Y también quiero que se abra un grupo de padres, donde se sienten los que van a hacer nuevos contratos y nosotros escuchar y decidir si son personas correctas las que deben de estar aquí. Eso lo pido y eso lo exijo.
Up next, we're gonna move on to the work session. Item 1, schoolhouse services needs assessment update.
Well, you guys don't want to stick around for the real meeting? Sure. Thought they might stick around for that rest of the meeting. Hang on, let the vaccine first. Okay.
Right, good evening, Dr. Morlock, School Board. As you asked, we're back to provide another update on the needs assessment that we completed for the School-Based Health Center. An update on the community engagement activities that we completed. We are planning on sharing some key findings with you. To talk a little bit about our partnership and sponsors that we've reached out to, give you an update on that. And then finally, to ask for the board's support to move forward, to either give us permission to move forward or not. And I'm going to ask Ann Zeal to do the majority of the presentation because she's done the majority of the work on this.
Thank you for letting us present tonight. So it felt when we were out in the community a little bit that there was maybe some misunderstandings about what a school-based health center is. So we wanted to give sort of a little bit of facts around that and let people know that school-based health clinics are true medical clinics that are conveniently located within a school district boundaries on their grounds or within the school. It can be either or. They offer the full range of physical health services, behavioral health, could have dental services, and it's regardless of a student's ability to pay. They are an independent medical sponsor and they run the clinic. The school does not run the clinic. I want to make that clear. And the providers are also employed by the medical sponsor and insured by the medical sponsor. That needs to be just known. We are required to meet Oregon Health Authority quality standards to become certified. And we coordinate with the school-based health center, but they do not also take away any of our particular services. Like we wouldn't take our nurses to go and work in the clinic. We would use our counselors to go do therapies at all. Those would come from other community partners and county resources, things of that nature.
So help me understand when you say about the mental health piece that you're partnering with outside agencies that come and do the work here.
Yes.
So when I offer school-based therapy in school, we put it in the clinic.
So that can be offered in a clinic or in schools, and we are doing some of that, and we would continue to do that.
So how would that be different?
Ask like a little bit more.
So there are therapists who are contracted by the school district to offer counseling in school. You're saying that we currently offer that.
Yes, we work with Marion County. We have a contract with Marion County currently.
And how many therapists is that?
Right now, Marion County is only able to give us one therapist.
Okay, so that's not really, that's very little. Almost
It's
zero.
very minimal. Yes, absolutely.
And so you would continue to contract with them for more therapists?
Yes, they are interested in opening up more of a partnership with us, and we're going to get to that a little bit later on in the presentation.
Great questions. And next slide, too. So I wanted to update you on parent engagement. So we did reopen the parent surveys a second time on February 10th. And we distributed in multiple ways. We put it out through the superintendent memo. All of the schools, the administrators shared in multiple ways. Depending on the school, a principal might share it out in their newsletter, Remind, Class Dojo. They also had paper copies, QR code. We also did a Family University parent survey night. That was on 2/16. And then we did a Russian focus group on 2/28 and 3/20. We did some surveys also via paper packets. We had held those other focus groups, so we had done a migrant focus group, a newcomers focus group, Woodburn High School student focus groups as well. So I just wanted to update you about our outreach to the community. Within the parent survey data, we did almost double our survey count that we had. We were at 72. We got 68 more surveys completed to date. And so far we have 721 student surveys filled out, which is amazing because they actually are the population we are trying to serve. And then staff, we got 172 total surveys back. Within the parent survey results, they were almost identical in terms of the percentage rates and what the supports were. They were the need for biggest was mental health. Noah May noted in behavioral health, the increase in physical health services, and then the ability to access health at school. Parents had a lot of input on that and interest in it being at school. Some parents indicated they needed to leave their jobs and were almost, on the verge of getting fired because they needed to take their child to one appointment or another appointment, or they just weren't taking them to appointments anymore. In terms of, I'm going to comment about our public comment about the school-based health center. We did not make individual phone calls to parents, and we wouldn't do that because it is a sensitive subject and it's also a confidential survey. So we put it out as a confidential survey, so that wouldn't bode well for a phone call. That would be a bit intrusive for a parent. But we did put it out in multiple ways.
So we couldn't ask parents if they would like a clinic on campus or not. That would be too intrusive.
The survey that we gave out to all parents, it would have been intrusive to call them and ask them those questions.
But I know.
Because it's
was that a question that
confidential.
you asked? Did you ask if you like a health clinic on campus? Was that
No,
a question?
no,
No.
that was not.
So how would they know where the location would be for that clinic?
We did a needs assessment to see what the need was for a school-based health center. That's what the needs assessment was. It was not asking about where the clinic would be or anything. So I know that you've seen the questions that were asked.
No, I have, but I mean, again,
Yeah.
going back to your response rate is very consistent.
Oh, access for students. In terms of students and families surveys, this wasn't a part of the staff survey. All of the groups believed that the school setting would be beneficial to them for multiple reasons. Just a slight example would be a student comes in, we have same day appointments, they got a sore throat. You can do a rapid strep test, see if they've got strep throat, see if it's more allergy season outside, and the student would be able to potentially stay in class rather than potentially go home for the day. School day access was a priority for them, and parents identified not having to leave work for their child to access care was something that they wanted. Transportation was also an issue, as well as cost. And those were both identified as barriers to access for people. Survey groups also felt like they would be more likely to get a culturally and linguistically appropriate service than what they were getting. So I know we presented the data prior. I just wanted to put it back up there again. These are some of the placemats and data sets that we looked at when we were in the planning committee. And our top concerns that came out were depression, and anxiety, unmet emotional needs, and unmet mental health needs for our students. Some considered suicide. There were unmet physical health needs. Lack of sleep was a big problem, as well as under and overeating, showing a need for nutrition education in our schools, the need for well checkups, dental needs, bullying, relationships, and violence, and treatment of injuries, which could be handled quickly. Our next slide is about the partnerships. So we had not met with Marion County prior to the January presentation. So we met on March 2nd. And behavioral health is willing to provide therapists. They currently have one on staff right now. They do have positions posted. We discussed upping that, and we also discussed the fact that they've posted qualified mental health assistants who could also help in that therapy realm on the wellness side of behavioral health.
What is a qualified mental?
They can do small group work, like say you had a group of students who were all working on something in particular and felt comfortable working together. They could do some small group work.
Exactly.
Like an anxiety group or something where they're learning how to
And is it-
manage things.
Is it somebody with a degree?
Yeah, they have a mental health, qualified mental health assistant degree.
I don't think that's a degree. That's a certificate.
Okay, certificate.
It does matter. It matters.
It does. They have to be
If it's a certificate or a
supervised.
degree.
They have to be supervised by the therapist.
So this is like a student.
No. They're also willing to provide family and community outreach. And we also have the WSD who provide mental health and behavior and crisis response for us. Just wanted to update on those partners.
So what would be the role for the WSD?
Currently, our role is they help us with crisis response. They send their
Right, so
behavioral
that's what they do
assessment
now.
team.
What would they do as a part of this?
Right, we can contract for additional services through them. So every year we create a contract for a local service plan with them. And we identify areas of need of what we might use from the WESD.
So with or without this clinic, they can still continue to provide these services.
Yes. Mhm.
And as far as mental health clinicians that Marion County has available to provide, what does that look like?
So I think I hear what you're asking. So I think you're asking us with or without the school-based health center, could we contract for these extra services? Is that what
Well,
you're
I know
asking?
that we can.
Okay, so
So my question is, with Marion County Health, how many therapists do they have available?
I don't know that answer.
So right now, Marion County in general often proposed to run coverage. So when I'm asking how many, what does that mean? And if we don't know, and you're asking for a letter of support, but yet you don't have an answer to that, like, as a clinician myself, there's not a lot of answers to a lot of things.
So again, like you already referenced, we could contract these services with or without a school-based health center. And it would depend with or without a school-based health center on how many people they had available. I do want to tell you that without a school-based health center, there's funding sources we won't be able to apply to that would help to pay for those contracted services. So that is one. There are some funding sources that so right now, we may not have the money to pay for these extra contracted services we're talking about. but we can apply for other things if we have a school-based health center.
Right, I can understand.
Doesn't
mental
make
health,
sense.
grants and such,
Yes.
but there are also clinicians who provide, most of our students have OHP with Pacific Source, right?
Right.
A lot of clinicians bill OHP with Pacific Source, so you wouldn't have to contract, you wouldn't have to pay them.
No, we wouldn't. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, no. we wouldn't.
So is that a path that we taken a look at?
Absolutely, we have taken a look at that, but like you just referenced, there aren't a lot of available people here in our area, but we are having conversations about that.
And who are those conversations with?
Marion County and Human Services.
So the same, yeah.
Mhm.
So more so moving forward with the school-based health center would allow to have those funds that would secure more additional therapists.
Yeah.
To have on hand for our students.
Their mental health grants, you
Okay.
do have to have the medical sponsor side. We collaborate on writing the mental health grant up to the tune of 350,000 a year.
And I would probably say that it's not grants or funding that is an issue, it's funding clinicians.
Right. I
And
will get to that.
so,
So I'm gonna go on to phase 2 updates. We're gonna switch gears a little bit. In the last meeting, we talked about going to other school-based health center site visits, as there are 81 of them in Oregon. So we went out as a core team to the McMinnville School District and visited their school-based health center. It is on their high school campus. Students walk over to it. They have a referral system through their counseling center. It was very well set up. You walk in and voila. I mean, it presents as a medical clinic. It looks like any medical clinic you would walk into. And then I visited the Newburgh School District School-Based Health Center. And then our phase 2.
I'm gonna go back.
Oh,
I
yeah,
have a lot of questions. So
yeah.
when you say your core team, who's part of? Can you speak up, please?
Oh, sure, sorry.
Who's part of the core team?
So our core team was our initial team that wrote the grant. So Dana Christie, myself, Joaquina, one of our nurses.
It was just
Am I
the
missing
4 of us
somebody?
that went to the
So the staff you work with, your staff.
some of my staff, yes.
Any parents, any board members? Did you invite any board members?
No, we did not.
Why?
We just didn't know any, but we, if you would like to go visit, I could set one up for you, for sure.
I mean, I just, I get what you're trying to do here, but I feel like the same questions that I had back then, I still have now. And today you're asking to support this project.
So here's the thing, we are asking for your support, and what we've completed is a needs assessment, and that was per your request as a school board. And we completed the needs assessment, and now we're before you with all of the information that we gathered in the needs assessment, and you have a decision to make. And so at the end of this presentation, and at whatever point it is in the agenda, you'll have a decision to make as a board, whether or not you give us support to move forward. And that's your decision. We're just presenting you with the information we have, and then you have the
Right,
final say.
and I guess
So,
I'm just asking questions. Is what I'm doing.
Some of them I could answer along the way too. So our phase 2 sponsor updates. That's the exciting part. So the core team met with Salem Health. They are unable to sponsor at this time. They can provide some services, so they could come out and do, a sports physical day, or come quarterly and do immunizations, flu shots. COVID testing, so we didn't get kind of an all absolute no. We also met with the Kaiser Permanente team. They were unable to sponsor, but they offered medical equipment and supplies from their reserves, including exam tables, stethoscopes, scales, things like that. And they also offered some startup funding. Then we met with the Woodburn Pediatric Clinic. They moved the discussions up to their partners team and then to their clinic administrator. They were interested but unable to sponsor at this time. We also met with Legacy Health and Orchid Health. They are both unable to sponsor at this time. And then we met with Providence Medical, who moved it forward to their access strategies team. We met on March 21st. And then the access strategies leadership team met on March 24th. And we have tentatively agreed, they have agreed to sponsor as of 4/6. So in terms of our timeline, we are requesting a letter of support from the board today. Some of the reasons why we're requesting it now are that the final report of our needs assessment and phase 2 is due on 5/1. We would need some ample time to write the report, come up with a full budget. We need to hold some committee meetings, form a student advisory committee, because we want their input on what this would be their space. We want their input on what it would look like, how they want it to feel. And then that gives us a way to apply for alternate funding streams, i.e. the mental health grants. We also have, right now for the initial needs assessment, we had obtained a grant of $90,000. We spent about half of it. We have the rest to spend by June 30th. We could purchase equipment, supplies, we could do inside renovations, technology, things of that nature to spend the rest of that funding. It could be just construction supplies. And state certification is due on January 1 of 24. So we would need to have things up and to state certification standards by that date. That's why we're shooting for today.
And so where would this clinic be located?
We have a couple sites we've looked at, a couple different spaces. We haven't made a decision on that, but we're kind of looking and weighing and measuring on what would be the least, construction and how do we get this done? What makes the most sense?
What are these spaces?
There's existing space.
You can't share.
We haven't made a decision yet.
You can't share the location that we're looking at.
There's multiple locations that we're looking at.
And
So I don't want to share that, no.
You don't want to share possible locations of this clinic?
Well, yeah, I can
No.
tell you that the locations are on the main campus.
Well, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we
So,
make
okay.
that decision, then it would be
So
shared.
on the campus,
Yeah.
so I don't know of any space that's unavailable on campus.
That's unavailable.
Right, I mean, every space on campus is,
Right, there'd have to be some moving around and some shifting, and so we haven't done a deep enough dive into exactly what that would look like yet, and there's multiple places that we could consider for that.
so there would have to be another shift and change at the high school.
Yes.
And what do you think of that? I'm curious, given that the high school has shifted from 4 to 1 this year, and they're moving towards that, and now we're going to consider having.
That's part of what we're looking at, is where would we make the least impact to other things. Been a lot of our discussions.
So I do have one comment. So the last time you presented in January. You presented in January and the high school presented right after you. And what I thought was really curious was, that the high school team didn't stay. Why not? Do you collaborate with the high school for the clinic?
Yeah, they've been involved in these conversations, yeah.
They've been a part of all of this.
They have not participated in the full needs assessment, but we have been in constant communication with the high school principal.
So they know what's going on.
Absolutely.
How many additional students do you think we might be able to serve?
Well, we don't know how many admissions.
Yeah.
So one of the things with Providence that I'm gonna bring up is there's also a connection to the ID interns at George Fox. So that's always helpful.
And how many students do they have?
It depends on each term. But they do the oversight of the ID interns.
Is everybody able to hear?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Could you repeat what the issue was? You said there's a problem. What was that? Sounds like George Fox or something overseeing.
Oh, I think she's talking about the ID students.
Oh, Providence oversees the ID interns at George Fox. So that's also an avenue for potential therapists. Again, that's 8, 10, and 2.
Right. I mean, there's
Yeah.
only so many ID students.
Right.
They said we're in phase 2. How many phases do we anticipate in this work?
The phase 2 is done and then you go into implementation. Yeah, so it would be done by May 1.
I have a couple questions.
Yes.
Have we completed a cost estimate of this entire work? Do we have a number? And what is that number?
Right, that's part of the budgeting of this phase. So typically it's grant funded money, it's not money that gets pulled from students in any way. So we have example budgets from other school districts, but I don't have our budget completely finished.
You have a wrong ballpark number.
Is there something you can share?
Well, we really can't move forward with that kind of planning until we
Yeah.
have support and support. Because we're at a standstill now. We've done the work that we can do. And again, like I said, it's up to you. You of the board are making a decision whether or not we move forward. If we move forward, then we're going to dive in and we're going to start doing all that work because we'll have your support and we'll be able to actually figure that out, choose a space and really start to work with the medical sponsor. They don't even want to work with us until they know we can move forward. So they don't want to plan and start to plan the budget because a lot of the money comes from their side of things until they know that this is a thing and that we're really moving forward. So we're kind of in this weird space right now where we don't have a lot of answers because we haven't been able to do that kind of planning yet. Because we really can't do that kind of planning without support.
So
Support to
question
move forward.
for the clinics, or go ahead.
Can I finish over just for 1 second? I apologize. So a lot of what you're asking as well, I just want to make sure we understand. We do bill insurance, they bill insurance, they bill OHP, Medicaid. If students don't have anything in terms of medical insurance providers, or they've been unable to access, then their care is free. So a lot of it, we're billing for things anyway, and it gets refurbished and paid for. Does that make sense? So it's the initial startup.
And it's not the school district that's doing the billing, the medical provider themselves, they run this just like they do their office. And they do all the billing. So when it comes to the budget, that's until we have that agreement that we're moving forward and we're working with them. It's very hard to talk about the budget because they're the ones who really need to budget for that and figure that. And then we have a small part of the budget that we contribute, but it's very, very small.
Like electricity, internet. it's
Probably
things
we don't
like
have
that.
ROM costs is that we don't know which location would be.
And
And
that-
so part of that is due to that, and that's how you budget that. And ROM is the
Right.
rough order of magnitude, so understanding the scope of the construction.
Yeah, makes it really hard to
Yeah, it's like,
support when there's so many answers.
I asked because it's good to know the impact on financial impact. The other question I was curious about is on the sponsors. Do you know why service providers that have presence in our community and work with our families are not jumping on this opportunity? It seems like it'd be a great opportunity for them to collaborate with the district.
I can answer that, because I've spoken with all of them. So, Salem Health was willing to do some things this year. They didn't have the bandwidth to do a full sponsorship this year. Salud, we talked to Yakima Valley Farm Workers. They had lost, they were having conversations and then they lost somebody high up in their division who is responsible for doing all the contractual sponsorships. So that's why we didn't go with them. We did have conversations with Kaiser. They had done one school-based health center. Kaisers are really tight-knit model. They're not super flexible with things, so it didn't work out well for them, but they were willing to donate all kinds of things to the cause and even startup funds. In terms of Orchid Health, they do typically one a year, and they only do school-based health centers in rural areas. They are already working with somebody this year. I feel like I'm missing one. Woodburn Pediatrics. They were very interested actually in having what, I mean, you can kind of think of it like a satellite office. Their partners were interested in the satellite office. There was a little bit of flux in who oversees their medical division and the difference between Oregon Health Authority. So the two didn't work well together.
Did you talk to Legacy?
Yes, and they were not going to sponsor at all.
Yeah, that's a bit of concern because ideally you have
I
a local champion that's a service provider to come alongside. And if that's not here, then how do we guarantee success?
I know Providence has done it before and it's been very successful. They worked on it for the last 3 years over there. It's running well. They're expanding. I mean, Providence is in Newburgh, it's in Wilsonville, it's in Walla, it's everywhere around Woodburn. So this is their next, if you think about it, their next potential expansion. They're interested. And they've done it before. They already know what they're doing.
So why is it attempted to?
Oh, it's more of a timeline. I got an extension from May 1st just for the signing of the contract, the sponsor letter from them, because somebody's out of town. That was it. It was a tentative, yes, we're on board. We just can't. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
That was pretty much my question as to
Okay.
why there have been no's, and I was gonna also ask actually, for those that are local here in town, and especially the first one where you mentioned they do one per year, is there something where you're able to move things around since it's starting next year? Or is it, it needs to be, like, once you start planning and that's kind of the year they're working off of?
We're planning and working off of this year. And if we don't move forward, this is gone.
Okay.
And you start over with square one. That makes sense. And you also lose the money that you need to spend by June 30th.
So going back to the budget,
Mm-hmm.
I did hear you mention that the
sponsor takes care of the clinic, but what about the building, the remodeling?
If there is any remodeling that needs to be done, it would be the district's responsibility.
And so, but we have no idea what that costs.
No, not right now because we haven't agreed to move forward and we haven't done that exploration.
I'm just kind of curious. So there's a cost that has to come from the district. We don't know what that cost is. We also have teachers fill up this space and outside talking for a raise. What message would we send to our teachers if we say yes to constructing this, that, and we don't know what that price tag is?
That's a good question.
And some of them is in the grant funding.
Right, but I'm referring to the location and the building itself. It has to be up to code if you're going to serve.
Right.
I'm thinking if it comes, to medical services, you have,
There-
I mean, you
there's
have to,
a rate.
we don't have anything like that on campus. If it's mental health, it has to be specific to mental health, and I'm pretty sure we don't have anything like that on campus. So it's going to be a costly project.
Can you clarify what it would look like to be specific for mental health you're talking about?
Well, I'm just saying, you need several, just the floor, a plan. I mean, you can't use you're not gonna use a classroom for their position, right? And so you're gonna have to remodel. And for medical clinics as well.
You need to have a lab space, bathroom.
And I'm sure there's coding and requirements for what that entails that I don't know anything about, which is also costly.
How much is left of the budget that you need to spend by June? That would be potentially going towards this.
About half of our $90,000. I'm thinking about because I'm not sure exactly.
And this can be used whether we agree or not.
No. No, well, we won't be able to continue to spend money on it.
Okay. And how would you spend this money?
It would go towards prepping some of that you're talking about, prepping the space. And to set it up.
And it would depend on what, because I can't move forward with like the Kaiser reserves. What, go down to a warehouse, what do you have available? We're grabbing exam tables, all the things. And then we see what it is we need for the rest. That makes sense. Some of it, I know, they've mentioned off to me some of what they know they have, but I'm sure there's more. They're like, you can go, wow, okay. So we'll take that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is interviews for budget committee vacancy.
We have Kelly Buccalucci and Carly. You want to join us here? And then I provided the questions for you in front of you.
And I have one answer the first one and then alternate.
Yeah, I'll read it.
All right, thank you for joining us today. Do you mind just sharing each one of your names so we have before we answer the questions?
Kelly Jacobucci.
Scott.
Okay. Thank you. We'll start with Kelly. Do you mind answering the first question? Why are you interested in serving on the budget committee?
I've lived in Woodburn now 24 years, and my children attended Woodburn schools for 18 years. My last child graduated in 2019, so sitting in the room tonight, it sounds like the district may have changed a bit since in the last 4 years, which is a little unfortunate, but in all of my 18 years of my children going here, I only had positive experiences. I had a lot of respect for the teachers, and whenever anything arose that, you know, maybe was a bit of an issue, it was always resolved. I always felt listened to by the you know, just by the principals, by the, you know, all the teachers that my children had. And my 2 youngest children started with the dual immersion program and both graduated with the biliteracy seal. And I mean, now them in adulthood, they have, I mean, it's invaluable. I can't even put a price tag on how having that skill and using it now in their professional life has been. So basically what the school district has given my family, my children, I feel like I would want to give a little bit back.
Well, where do I begin? I don't have children in schools. I've never had, I don't have children. But I have been volunteering in schools across Michigan, Chicago, now here for 20 years. I love volunteering. I love working with the kids because they're our future. I've always believed in that. And I love my community. I've been at Woodburn 4 years now. And I actually applied right when I got here. And then unfortunately, COVID shut us down. So I'm back this year, and I'd just like to learn more about this end of the whole process, not just being on the educating end, but being a part of the board. And I don't know what that's all going to entail. Maybe if I have suggestions, that could be welcomed. There's no harm in asking a question. But no, this is my way of giving a little bit more to my community. And if I get whatever positions there, I'd be thrilled.
Question number 2, I'll go back to Kelly. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with our school?
My mom answered that in the first question.
We can keep it short.
Yeah, I did, when my children were all in elementary school, I did volunteer in the school back then too. So they went to Nellie Muir. So I did spend quite a bit of time in those early kindergarten, 1st grade years, just volunteering in the classroom. And yeah, and so, but
Thanks.
yeah.
I've done K through 3. The only grade I haven't done is 2nd. I love the lower levels. I am currently at Lincoln School working under Mrs. Weigel. We work well together as a team. I love bringing what she can't bring and doesn't have time for. I bring them humor. I bring them an ear to listen. I'm old fashioned. I'm a child of the 60s. So to me, education was totally different back then, but the common sense approach to what they're trying to learn while they're there. I do the backup support and I love it. I couldn't think of a better job to do as a volunteer. We all have our little niche and our little hobby, and I don't want to spend my retirement years watching TV and getting fat on the couch. So this keeps me on my steps every day, and you got to be 10 steps ahead of these kids because they are very on the ball. So that's my love, my passion.
Thank you. So for the last 2, we'll switch around. We'll have Scott answer first. So question number 3, what do you see as the 3 most critical issues facing the Woodburn School District today?
Oh, I may be putting myself on the line here, but communication between the board and the teachers, maybe. You know, this wouldn't have to go on if there was maybe more of a liaison going on. I mean, I'm a great middle person. So I see what they're struggling with. I understand this, and maybe being on the budget, I can see, well, I know I'm boxing myself into a corner with this, but there's a way of getting this all to work. And I'm one that would like to get everybody on board so that there isn't this going on with strikes and things like that, because it takes away from why we're all doing what we're doing. So if that's too political, I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. I don't point fingers, I see what I see, and it's not easy from either angle. And I do appreciate and respect that, but there's gotta be a way of getting this to be more open-minded, more cohesive as a group, no matter what your position is. Oh, that's one, I'm sorry. Thing. Well, the supply issue is always an issue, but I mean, I have kicked in on it out of my own pocketbook because I'm a single person and I have extra money, so I don't mind buying them the best of everything, especially at grade level, so they can experience really cool stuff. Third one is I just love what I do. I mean, I can't think of what's facing the school except for what I just discussed. Yeah, I'd rather take all my 2 other questions and put them in the first one.
Well, I did look up and where I say the district has really changed in the last 4 years, and I'm sure COVID had quite a bit to do with this, but graduation rates seem like they've really dropped from when my children were attending. And I kind of saw that on like social media a bit, and I didn't really believe it. I was like, oh no, what are they talking about? And I did look it up, and I was really surprised by how much they've dropped. I don't know why, because I haven't been in the school district. I mean, obviously there's a lot of animosity kind of going around, as I saw today coming in here. So, and I don't know what's the cause of that, so I won't even try to answer that part of it. But obviously there's a breakdown somewhere between teachers and administration, or, you know, and then I really probably just feel it's a lot to do with COVID and just the whole students being out for so long, and that you can't really place the blame on anybody for that one. But so, I mean, graduation rates definitely, obviously there's, like Scott said, a communication, something's amiss. And I won't pretend to know what that is either, since I don't work in the school district or anything. And probably, I mean, I would imagine funding is an issue. If the teachers are talking about striking, there's clearly something with funding, and I won't pretend to be able to solve that either, but I would think that that's the 3 biggest things maybe facing the district.
All right, thank you. Back to Scott for the last one. Is there anything that you would like to ask from the board, or anything else you would like to add?
Well, more of a thought, couple of thoughts. The rare times I watch the news, I actually watch it, and they said, oh, the state's got $2 billion of cash. Write in and tell us where you think it should go. Well, oh yeah. Is that even a possibility for this? I mean, when I came back to school, they bought a nice massage chair, but I thought, why do we get a massage chair? Hardly anybody uses when we could have more things for the kids. It's like we're skirting the outside edges, like, oh, keep the teachers happy that are not happy and give them a chair to sit in. It just doesn't, it's a disconnect. You know, I just think that, and I've always lived my life where you had a limited budget, but you worked it within a smart approach where you could live well on balancing things to make them work. And I think that, I mean, COVID, the site council I was on at school, which we had 1 meeting, then they dissolved it. I mean, when I saw the numbers of the kids and what they're lacking based on COVID too, I get that. But it's like, there was a ton of COVID money for the schools. Where's that gone? I mean, I agree with the teachers. They deserve to be compensated for, I mean, I got 2 pay raises for Social Security because of inflation. They only do it when you have inflation. And they found the money to pay us all. I just don't understand the direction where the funds are there, but not there. I don't know. I'm totally blind with that. That's why being on a budget committee might help me understand your side, or the side where the budget lies. Again, it just gets back to, I don't want to see strikes going on. I want to see us, everybody just pulling together. We're there for the kids. That's my goal. That's why I do this. I don't have to get up at 6 in the morning anymore. I choose to because that's where my heart lies. And it's nice when a kid comes back and says, I remember you, and I remember that 5-minute thing you taught me. That's gold to me. You can't reach all of them, but you do your best you can. I would have been a teacher had I discovered this when I was young enough to go back to college. I don't want to do it and then retire in 3 years. Besides, I'm having more fun as a volunteer because I can put them away at 2 o'clock and there's somebody else's responsibility and no college down the road. So I just want more of a common sense involvement and maybe bring a little humor into it too. That's what I do best. Doesn't mean you don't take me seriously. So that's just where my heart and my direction lies.
I can't top them, so.
In the school district 20 years, I just came here. So
I only have a positive outlook of the school district, so this, and yeah, and I was like,
I'll truncate.
oh, no, yours has been good. So no, I just, maybe there's been some hiccups in the last few years, but I mean, Woodburn School District I've always touted it and always, I mean, I early on when my kids were in elementary school, and the charter school, is it still here? What's the name of it? Arthur's Academy. Yes. Everyone tried to get me to have my children go to Arthur's Academy. And I was like, no. I absolutely loved Nellie Muir. And then my children went to French Prairie and then they all graduated from WSD. And I just had a positive experience. So, so it makes me sad that what's going on right now with the teachers and stuff like that, but I understand. So all I got.
That's beautiful. I couldn't have taught that if I tried.
Or do we get to
Yeah.
ask more?
Oh, you can ask questions too. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what did you all do as a career or job?
I'm in financial administration. So I work for a IT staffing firm and do all their financials and payroll and I have 70 employees and I also am their benefits administrator. So I kind of have a dual role on both sides of HR, kind of. I do HR, benefits administration, and then all the financials.
Well, I'm reapplying for janitor. I cannot possibly top that. I know how to work within a budget and I have life experience has taught me that. I was a hairstylist and you had to learn to budget your money because you're on commission. You don't know if you lose a client, you lost your this, you got rent coming in. But I was the first out of 3 kids to buy a car and a house. And I didn't go to college.
Good for you.
Life on the streets of Chicago has taught me everything I know. But it taught me how to get along with people. It taught me how to relate with you. And I do that best when they're 5 or 92. So people are my pride and joy. You should get the 3-year position. I just should. You got the financial background. I wouldn't care either way. I'm just grateful to get on the board and be a part of the group. So
I'm glad you all made that decision.
I figured you're probably gonna do that anyway. I mean, she's got the background. I don't have the background.
Any other comments, please? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to the board action items today. The first one is a recommendation to declare budget committee vacancy for position 3.
So that position was held by Pat Hyatt. This would have been her 3rd year of her 3-year term. And so she recently did resign. And so that is why we have 2. You declared one, a few months ago, and then now you have 2. So you do have a 3-year. When someone does resign, when you appoint, you have to appoint just for the remainder of their term. But then you could turn around after July 1st and reappoint them for a 3-year term. So that's an opportunity as well. That's an opportunity as well. And then after July 1st, you will have 3, including that position 3. So you have positions 3, 4, and 5 that people are filling out the term. It'll be the end of the term. So you'll have 3 open positions as of July 1st. So position 3, 4, and 5.
So,
Yeah, that's up to the board. Typically, that's what we've done is we've asked them, hey, do you want to continue? And if they do, then the board just reappoints them for another 3-year term. So we have had that happen.
so just so we're clear, position 2 is the 3-year.
Yeah, so you can move agenda item number 3 to number 2. So if you wanted, you have to do number 1, you have to declare the vacancy. And then you could then appoint the committee members to 2 and 3.
The position 2 is the 3-year.
The position 2 is the 3-year, and that one was already declared vacant. Mhm.
Is there a motion to declare
Is there a recommendation?
budget committee vacancy for position 3?
I'll make a motion to declare that position 2.
I do second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion has passed. Okay.
Aye.
And then if you would like, you can move on to agenda number 3, 4.3.
So is it okay with everyone else if we jump to 3 and come back to 2?
Yes.
Just stay on the same topic. So recommendation to appoint the 2 candidates for positions 2 and 3. And from what we heard, Scott would take position 3 and Kelly would take position 2 with the understanding that he could renew once.
After July 1st.
Yeah.
That's fine. Since I lack the financial background, would be fair.
So is there a motion to appoint?
I move the motion to appoint position 2 with Kelly and position 3 with Scott.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved, seconded. Any additional discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. The motion has passed.
All right.
Congratulations, Kelly.
Well, is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Will I be notified like when the meetings are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll send an email or
Yes.
something out.
Yeah.
I don't get anything, like, I won't.
No. We'll get you all set up. The dates are already set and we'll just-
Roughly how many meetings for your duties for
2 to 3.
2 to 3, yeah.
May 30th.
We shoot for
is the
2,
first
but
one.
sometimes
I
it's
think you
3.
sent us the dates for, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll go back to item number 2, which is a recommendation to provide letter of support from Board of Directors for school-based health 7. Okay, apologies.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. So we're going to go back to item number 2, which is the recommendation to support to provide a letter of support for the board, from the board for school-based health center.
Well, I'm excited about the possibilities of our district being able to offer the services for our students in our community. Earlier today, we heard our educators talking about the importance of providing our students the best quality education. I was talking to an educator who was talking to me about the mental health of the students that she works with and how behavioral health has become a big issue for her in the classroom. I think this is a great opportunity for our students to receive additional resources at little to no cost to our district while supporting students in the services they need.
I want to say, teachers' request was also to add therapists. So that would be another way of being able to provide that, again, as you said, without a cost to the district.
There are other ways to provide therapists and other mental health services. That would not be that great cost to location, changing the high school. So if the goal is to provide mental health services, there are other options. That would be
One of them.
No, I'm saying other that are not as expensive as this. One, we don't know the cost. Two, we don't know the location. Three, we don't know the disruption on campus with. This is the first year that our students are shifting into a comprehensive high school. So I'm hearing we need mental health services. There are other ways to provide mental health services. That does not need to be on campus. So that's what I'm hearing from both of you. So
Any other, Laura, you have any thoughts?
I thought it was a great idea to provide services on site, at the in school. Many parents have to get out of work and take their child to the clinic. And I know the clinics are very close by, but not everybody has the money to take their child, the children to the clinic. So what I heard, I don't know if it was to my advantage. I heard, little to no cost to our students, right? To our parents. So to me, it's very attractive that we have something on site. When my kids been trying to get, or when I have them enroll in any emotional or mental support, it's very to me, it was very, I felt like accommodate not only myself, but the student, my child, to have services at school. So that in my personal opinion, having something on site, and I know it costs to do all these services and to renovate and adjust a room or a couple of rooms, there's cost. So those were my questions, how much money is there involved? And I hear that there was no amount clear on the discussion tonight. But to me, it seems like it's a great service for our children, for our parents, that they don't have to run from work and being out there in the mud. And I can see parents going from nursery to running to pick up their child, and when the child can be taken care of. So that's what I heard. Maybe I didn't hear correctly.
I'm gonna push back a little on the no cost comment, because I will tell you, a medical facility comes with a lot more requirements than just a typical office, typical school. The cost per square foot is gonna be higher. We just don't know what that cost is. So to me, in my eyes, it's like having a real estate developer come and say, hey, make this investment on this project, but I can't tell you what that ROM is gonna be, what the site plan looks like, what the floor plan looks like. I didn't hear anything about square footage. It'd be great to at least get that, right? Like, what's the footprint of this space? So that's concerning to me, and that there is a cost tag to it, and it's a real cost.
So I guess my question here too is then, is there a way, because it seems like they can't move forward if we also don't give any kind of letter of support, because that ends up being a bump in the road for them and being able to really provide those answers. Is there another point in which they can go and move with this, be able to, identify a location, get some of those budget and expense reports to us? Is there another area in which they would be able to come and kind of say, like, right before implementation, this is what it all fully looks like, besides it being like this sort of locked in deal that we would have to continue on with if there ends up being something else that happens or surprises us along the way?
Yeah, I think the timeline maybe wasn't clear, or I'm not sure how pressing this is. Do we need to give them the letter of support today, or can we give them more time to do more of that work so we have a better idea of the impact?
They can't, that was one of the things they said, it is that they can't fully move forward and provide some of those answers until they have a lot of support.
Really answer about timeline, if
Yeah.
it'd be better than.
So we have to, yeah, it's a good question. And then I understand why you're giving, we haven't been able to move forward to do any of the planning. So we have to, in order to actually continue to move forward with anything, to look at money or anything, we need your support. We need a lot of support so we can do that. And then before we actually, and Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but when it comes to actually spending the money on any kind of a capital improvement on a building, we have to go through a process to do that and get approval. So all of those things will come back.
Yeah, anything,
Yeah.
anything over 50,000 has to come back
Yeah.
through for board approval.
Yeah. So
Right.
we just can't really move forward to even like explore that without approval. And so we're kind of stuck right now. And I understand it feels weird. I feel weird not being able to give you those answers.
Yeah.
What would be a next point in this timeline or process in which, for example, we can give you the green light right now so that you can have that ability to answer these questions and provide all of that? What would be the next step? Would there be another, if something happens, especially with the having to do any improvements? I'm assuming that there has to be something else along the way that in which we can say, you know what, it turns out maybe it's not going to end up working out for us or that kind of thing.
Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but just I think you always have that right as a school board to do that, exactly that, to say this is not working out and we make a decision not to have that.
Also think we can come back on the 25th is the next board meeting, is that correct? And we can give an update probably at that time about potential location or square footage size, some things like that. There's a couple of areas, one is more displacing than the other.
Does
There are
phase 3 include that? So like in phase 3, I will come to the board and get additional information around square footage, what it looks like, potential cost. We're just not even there in the process.
Right.
It's
We're
a-
still in the needs assessment grant.
Yeah.
We're still in that, like, trying to figure this out. What would this look like, getting the partnerships, doing all of that.
Superintendent Warlock, you were superintendent of Newburgh. Can you speak to your experience as superintendent with the school-based health clinic and the costs associated?
Yeah, actually, my first one we did in Canby School District a long time ago. And we just remodeled a single kind of office space because it's all the space that we had at the time in the counseling center. We made that out of one office with one little side office. And so when we talk about scope, it can be anything from that to we had in Newburgh an existing building. But before that, we moved that building, we actually just reused some classroom spaces and we did partnerships. Obviously, Providence was a huge part of that success because they were able to do that. Prior to my arrival there as superintendent, we'd had 5 completed suicides. And so that was a very large focus for us to work on suicide prevention. And one of those things was about setting up services at the point of need. So the closer you can have the services to the children who need it, remove another barrier. And then in the background, we did some data sharing agreements among partners. So families would not have to fill out the same paperwork 4 times. So it could go through OHA or go through the health insurance or OHP, which is another barrier. And each time we do that thing, people start to give up and there's attrition in that. So we started out by reusing some, actually in kind of a crappy old building down in the J building, which was the old industrial arts. And we had some space that we did some paint jobs on and made it look nice. And then during the course of the development of the bond, there was a huge community interest because we had shown proof of concept we were able to do it. And so then we reused another building, kind of a strange hexagonal building that happened to be on the high school campus. separate. And so we put some money aside in the bond specifically to remodel that building. Because it was a funky building, it took a little more because it was hexagonal, like I said, but you can do it in many different kinds of things. But I think what we found is the amount of students that were able to access that kind of a service quickly, and removing the barriers of the paperwork, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. And people still use their regular providers if they've got one. I mean, that's, this was just an additional piece for that. And so I think there's this balance of being able to do both of those. I think part of the challenge about not knowing where it's going to go is we're trying to disrupt as few people as possible. And it may be that we're going to only have 2 office spaces, or we'll have 4, maybe we can cut 3 out of this. Or maybe it'll be one of these 2 different locations. So I think that's kind of part of that exploration that we have to get into, getting somebody to be a partner. Frankly, Providence is looking where they surround us. And so that's something they're looking at, not just us, but a few other places that they surround that they don't yet provide service. And so I think that's a big part of it. But I think that us being able to provide mental health support primarily, and they're doing more now, some dental things in Newburgh, right there at the point of need. I mean, you saw the dental health too. That could be the next thing at some point. We start doing some of that additional work. So,
could you share on those experiences? What were some of the expenses for repurposing some of those buildings before the bond?
Before the bond, very minimal. So lots of paint. Some donated furniture. We had our maintenance folks throw up a couple of pony walls. We need to have we can cut some spaces in between. So a few $1,000s, really not very much. We tried to reuse the spaces we had. That's why we looked at the spaces. Well, this one's got sort of a reception area.
Okay.
We started by looking at the old teen parent room because they had built one of those in the late 90s. But then that was going to take a lot of remodel because all the plumbing and things. And so we said, no, that's a lot. I mean, every time you mess with plumbing, it's a huge cost. And
So with the amount of the grant that's still remaining, half of it, and what they're potentially able to get from some of the sponsors that, have said no for now, you see that would be probably plenty to be able to move forward.
Yeah, I think that we need to be mindful of the scope we can pull off to begin with, and then choose the best space for it. And then, we don't need to spend a lot of money. I mean, I think that the benefit of doing this is that the service that we're providing is not costing us money. We do have upfront costs, but I don't think it has to be exceptionally rebuilt. And that's why I think they're hesitant to talk about the spaces, because there are some that are just better than others that require less remodel than others. So will it cost money? Yeah, it'll cost some, but it's not a huge amount. And again, anything over 50,000 has to come to you here anyway.
Thank you.
How were the systems handled for those upgrades? Because I know they have different ventilation requirements for one of those spaces.
Yeah, in the final facility where they went to the hexagonal building, that's where all those were done. In the initial one, they were already kind of strangely cut spaces, so we were able to do a couple of quick HVAC things to bring in return air and fresh air in. Yeah, so we had to do a little bit of that kind of work, but we had an HVAC person on staff at the time. He just cut in some events because we had to have the airflow. Yeah.
What about when they went to the actual facility? What was that capital cost?
I don't know.
What year was that?
That was, you probably find it in some of those documents. It was just completed last year. So yeah, I'll bet PA probably has some of those.
You probably designed it.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments?
Thank you.
I mean, I think, sorry, I just, kind of going back, one, the cost, but you've already shared that, but also our families seem like they don't know what's going on. That is like my first primary concern. Why don't our families know that this is a project?
So part of the next phase is actually a campaign to share information.
And get that community. That's part of it.
So that would be.
Because you want to market it as well.
Like a campaign saying that it's. That is going to happen, but we didn't campaign, do you want it to happen? Do you need it? Do you want it?
No, we didn't, you're right.
I'm just. I don't know if confused is the word. About this project, and when I think of mental health services as a clinician. I see, I mean, will they be providing family therapy? Or is this just solely individual therapy?
The clinic, they're open to doing family and our students, not the full community. They're just not equipped to do that much.
So then the working hours would be,
That would be decided within the scope of deciding the services that would be happening in the clinic, because I mean, they're basic primary services, right? We're not doing surgeries, we're not doing any of that stuff. Right.
Well, that's something we would work out with the partners when they want to be open, and hopefully, I mean, I would envision that we would have times that families could access it.
because if, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Newburgh is only open from 9 to 5.
Is it?
Yes,
Yeah, I don't know.
Monday to Friday.
But we can
So we
control that.
talk about access, and I hear access, and includes, families can't come during the day. Family therapy, I mean, there's so much more, and there's so many unanswered questions. And really the concern is this just another, clinic, like another clinic here in town? And so another thing is, how will families know that their kiddos are receiving services? How do you follow up with their families? Where are the parents a part of this?
Well, as a mental health professional, I mean, some of the answered students at certain ages can make those decisions on their own.
Right, so students come to me and they say, I don't want to share. But we know that the kid isn't the problem. We know that the problem relies within the family system. So I always encourage, and at some point, we end up doing family therapy. We end up including the parents. So even though there is a law that states, if you're 15, you have full consent. There is still, as a clinician, I believe it's my ethical responsibility to encourage the client to, if they want, include the family.
And I'm sure that's how they feel as well.
Who?
The mental health and the medical providers feel the same way. Like in our conversations with them, they'd be like, well, I would always be encouraging the student, like, this is probably something you might want to be, with your mom or your dad or, whoever. About, I would really encourage you to do that. That's been in a lot of our conversations.
So it just seems, again, like a concern, like, where are the parents in this? I heard, we surveyed over 700 students. Okay, but where's the data that shows for our students, like what the specific need is?
So the data on the data side last time was not the county data. That was the Woodburn School District data that's taken out of the Marion County report. So specifically, we pulled out the Woodburn.
So that was
data
specific
numbers.
to Woodburn.
Yes. Those Woodburn 11th grade Oregon student healthy certificate. Yeah. Some of the information that we just sort of talked about that didn't have the percentage figures came from the survey data.
So,
right, which we couldn't share with, the request because of confidential.
So again, there are other ways such as contacting clinicians to provide the service to our students. And honestly, that is one of the reasons why I'm supporting.
I have a question on the timeline. So right now, we have two paths, right? One is the board does not provide this letter of support. What happens is project ends. Can that be picked up in a future year with a
We could
different grant.
reapply for the grants
You
and go
start all over.
start from scratch.
You
But it
don't
can
take
be
this
redone.
stuff and keep it, you start all over.
So there's that possibility.
Yeah.
The other possibility is the board agrees to provide you this letter of support. What happens next?
We're gonna finish the planning phase to get all of that information you've been asking about, to work with a partner, to start to work on the details. So that we can actually, start to envision a little bit better what this would look like. And we can come back and share that with you, at that point. But we haven't started that work yet because we're waiting for the letter of support.
So you come back with an estimate, you work, you define the site, the location, the square footage, the number of students to be served. You work with high school administrators or wherever it's gonna land to make sure it doesn't impact their operations and minimal impacts. And then it comes back and say, we find out it doesn't work, what happens then, or what's that timeline moving forward?
Re-ask that just a different little.
I know.
Mention, right? Like, we provide this letter of support, you go out and you do that additional, more like feasibility study,
Yeah.
then you're gonna come back. And then we get that information, and so at that point, it's could be okay, it's not expensive, it makes sense for this place, this site. You got buy-in from the high school, that's one option, right? There's multiple options beyond that.
We've got Providence on board. all of
Correct,
those
you
things.
have a champion
Got
from
their
the health center.
Yeah.
But the opposite could be true, so we just don't know, right?
Yeah.
And then, but you have a timeline that you need to hit, right? You need to be certified.
By January
January.
of next year.
What does that,
2024.
what does that require?
A full up and running center.
Yeah, that we would have to have
Meet
all of the
compliance.
pieces in place that meet the Oregon Health Authority compliance, which is. There's a lot, it's quite a long list of things.
It's like it has to have a lab, it has to have a bathroom.
And without those
Exam
things, we
phase.
couldn't move forward, like we wouldn't. get
That's a.
certified.
I mean, there's a whole.
Yeah, it's a very,
What, sorry, what is, that was on here, right? What is the name?
January 24th.
Yeah. They have given extensions prior. I mean, we all know, because sometimes when we do construction of fall or things like that, they
Yeah. we're-
go a
we're
month
speaking
out.
With,
Yeah.
With the pandemic and just time, products being delayed and supply chain issues, might be something we'll run into.
That's part of why we're looking at sites that need minimal work. So that we don't have a huge cost, number one, and then take a long time to get it to where it needs to be.
Okay, so working back off of that deadline, so let's keep moving forward, so you come back. Like, you're gonna have to procure someone to get going on that thing by when, so that it's open by January 1st.
Well, we don't have to be open by January 1st. We have to be certified by January 1st.
Okay, so what's the difference?
They come and look at everything, like you have to have, I mean, they have a specific small fridge that has to be a certain temperature to keep the immunizations in, or.
So it's the facility must be.
Yeah,
ready and
it's
certified.
It's
not
building
that it's closed.
to be ready.
Correct.
You have
We
to have a
don't have
running
the-
bathroom and then sink and a lab. That's the big part of it, is the lab, the scale. Exam table. The right equipment.
I think it feels a bit rushed too. It's the timeline that OHA
Yeah,
gives
it
you,
does.
but I agree with you. It feels very rushed. And I think all the school districts that are involved in this feel the same way. It's a very rushed project.
How likely are the educated extensions and how much time of an extension do you get?
We got a couple of months last time. I mean, but we got it done in a couple months, I think. It would be amenable. And then fairly flexible with that. It's neat to find out. I'm ambitious.
My take at this moment is, you know, we know that there are needs. At this moment, there are funds. We do have a grant. Why not try to explore as much of this as possible at any time if we see that this is still not gonna be meeting what we require, need, et cetera. We can always pull the plug kind of thing. But at this moment, we have funds, we have grant money, and my thing is try to use it and again, get as many of these questions answered as well to see if it's going to be feasible.
Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
I move that we make a recommendation to provide a letter of support for the school-based health center.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Right.
3, 2. All right, next today is the board calendar. We have a regular meeting coming up on April 25th. May 9th, we have a work session. May 23rd, we have a regular meeting, and May 30th, we have a budget work session and first meeting. So May's a busy month. Any future agenda items that need to be discussed or added? You go around the table, start with Anthony.
At some point, I want to get more information around schedule and timing. One of the big things that we hear from educators is around prep time. Last year and the year before, I remember there being questions around like the middle school master schedule, but I mean, just in general, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school. Now, how much time do our educators get when it comes to prep time? What are the constraints we have? Is it the sheer number of classes we offer? Is it the time in the day? Like, what are the components that lead to the frustration or the inability around, you know, class time and all that stuff?
I think for me, I don't think I have anything to share. I think last time we created a lengthy list. So I think that would be a good place to start.
I spoke with the teacher and I had mentioned trying to get a student voice on the board. To share a point of view and I'll share that their view was they should be a voting member. If you want a student perspective, they should have a voice on there. So I'm just sharing that as well.
So previous item.
Yeah, that was already previously stated.
Laura?
I was thinking about the a school-based health center. They said that maybe for the 25th, they'll have an update. So I was thinking that maybe, I don't know, we don't want to push, too much, but they said that they might have an update for us. So that will be something.
Yeah, I think I need to push though to meet that timeline, so.
Yeah, if they can, I think we have enough items for next agenda. Next meeting agenda.
I think that covers future agenda items. We are now going to move into an executive session. For items 1 ORS 192.6602D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations, and item 2 ORS 192.662I to review and evaluate the employment-related performance of the chief executive officer of any public officer, employer, staff member who does not request an open hearing.